Pete Festersen. I'm City Council President and running for City Council District 1. I'm originally from Omaha. I'm born and raised here. I went to Dundee Elementary and Howard Kennedy and Lewis and Clark and Central High School. So I'm a big believer in our public school system. My daughters actually were fourth generation at Central High School, and we just got news that we've been inducted into the Hall of Fame there. So we're proud of that and proud of what that does for our city. I left for about 8 years for college and for some initial work in the Connecticut and Boston areas, but then came back in my mid-20s to work for a number of political campaigns at the time. I worked for Brenda Council. He ran for mayor in 1997 and lost by 735 votes. I'm still not over that, as you can tell. And then Ben Nelson when he ran for Senate as well. So following those experiences, I've worked in senior roles with the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce, the Peter Kiewit Foundation, and was Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Mike Fahey. And I'm now a Vice President at CHI Health. My two girls are now in college, which is hard to believe, and my wife teaches preschool. I think the coolest thing about Omaha is something that I know we both enjoy, which is the music scene. I'm a drummer, I know you are too. We could probably talk about that for a full 30 minutes. But that's a dramatic difference from when I was younger here. We didn't have those opportunities. We have so many great venues around town now, not only to play in, but to go see live music. Downtown, South Omaha, Benson, of course, is one of my favorite places to do that. Those places didn't exist even 5 or 10 years ago. So I think we've come a long way in that respect, and that's one of the things I think is really cool about Omaha. Yeah, I think it's a bit my background. I mentioned when I came back to Omaha, I was interested in making a difference here and worked for a number of candidates that I still support to this day, and then worked for a mayor and was civically engaged. I have a master's in public administration too. So it was always an interest of mine to be in public service, but it wasn't until 2009 when this city council seat opened up that I decided to do it myself. So I ran in 2009 and have been reelected 4 times now. Yeah, it's funny you say that because I speak to classes all the time. I really enjoy doing that. And they ask you some really funny questions sometimes. I just spoke to a scout troop this week who was about the same age as some of the 5th graders you're talking about. So I always try to explain to them what a city council person does and definitely explain the executive side and the legislative side of local government, and then make sure they understand it's everything from police and fire to economic development to libraries and parks and things even as basic as their streets and snow plowing and trash. I think that's important for kids to understand that local government really impacts their lives very directly. So I like to explain it to them that way. And then we also talk about just what the expectations of a city council person and the job, how we have public meetings every week where they can come and give input to city policies or call or email us. All of us are very hands-on in that respect, so we really enjoy hearing from people, and especially young people who have opinions about these things. So I have a lot of priorities, I would say. I mean, I think we need to continue to reduce our property tax rate. That has been a challenge, I think, for everyone in their homes. We've reduced rates 5 times now, and I've introduced measures that reduce that more than was proposed a couple times, and that was approved unanimously. That's got to continue. Public safety is one of the most important things we do. I just came from the Police Foundation Lunch Officer of the Year program. It reminds you of the importance of all they're doing, both police and fire. And we've had good years recently in that respect. Overall crime is down 21% from 2024. We've seen great development downtown, over $1.5 billion of development in our urban core. But I really think we need to get back to our neighborhoods, neighborhood streets, neighborhood parks, neighborhood business districts. I can talk a lot more about that if you'd like. But the other thing I'd throw on there as a top priority is affordable housing. That's something I know affects everybody right now throughout the city. It's not any one place. We know we're way behind, like many cities are. We think we need 30,000 units just the next 5 years to keep up with that demand. And so we do have an action plan in place now, but I think we need to get much more aggressive about that implementation going forward, and I'd be pleased to talk about that some more too. Yeah, there's a different relationship there, I think, in terms of what we're seeing with our homelessness populations right now. I do support the approach of reaching out to them and trying to get them the resources they need, both with our shelters and our mental health institutions and basic needs that some people in poverty are experiencing. But largely, and many times it is, because there's lack of affordable housing in the community. And I'm very interested in making this a top priority going forward the next 4 years. We have now adopted an affordable action housing plan that has a number of substantive recommendations in it. And we have done a number of important things, I think, in the last few years. We've appropriated about $60 million towards affordable housing together with the private sector. And that has produced about another 2,000 units per year in the city. But when we talk about being behind 30,000 units in the next 5 years, that puts that in context. So there's many more things we need to proceed with in that plan. One of the things I'm most interested in, I was talking to a Lincoln City Council member last night who they have done this, community housing bonds. They've sold $80 million worth of community housing bonds in Lincoln to really up their game on affordable housing. There's no reason we can't do that as well. It's not a risk to the taxpayers, and it helps nonprofit and for-profit developers finance that last bit of their project that they just can't finance right now given the times and given their expenses. So I want to pursue that with vigor. And then I think it's also an all-of-the-above strategy. We got to reduce costs on the home builders. We need to look at our zoning codes. We've adopted our new accessory dwelling unit provision in our code that I think can help seniors and families. It's all those things, and also addressing TIF policy, I think, to help in these matters. So for me, that really has to be a point of focus for us going forward, not just for the homeless population, but for everyone who's experiencing challenges with affordable housing. Yeah, I appreciate that question. Public safety is a lot of things. It's not just police and fire. It's also the Humane Society. Many people don't think about that. That is a public health and welfare situation with pets and strays. Many people don't think about public health as public safety, but it is. I also serve on the Douglas County Board of Public Health. And every month in our meetings, they're addressing some kind of public health or public safety issue from their perspective. So it really has to be a holistic view of that issue. We talked about mental health as well. I've been a big advocate for that at the city council level, and I do think our community is on the verge of making some big steps there with the new Children's Center of Excellence at 84th and Dodge, with a new adult facility on Community Alliance. It's about 72nd and Mercy. And then the county has dedicated a lot of funds to expand their clinics at Douglas County Hospital, and then also downtown, which is under construction with the county jail. These kind of services, I think, are really important to public safety and also public health. The one other thing I'd mention, as it does apply to police and fire, there is, of course, staffing and there is, of course, resources that are needed to fund police and fire, and it is about 2/3 of our budget in the city budget. But I also think we need to think about emerging technologies and how to leverage those things. There is a new real-time operations center that accesses cameras and drone footage that's been helpful. I've also adopted a property crime ordinance that just adopts basic point of sale and fingerprinting mechanisms for secondhand dealers and pawn shops. That's returned over $2 million worth of stolen goods to people. Things of that nature, I think, can really make a difference in terms of public safety. Yeah, I think that staffing is important in the respect of community policing because we do want our officers to be doing community policing, not just running call to call. And I think for that reason, the number of officers is important in this bigger equation of public safety that we're discussing. So I do think we need to keep pursuing that and helping with that. But I do think there's many other strategies too, as we were just discussing, that can be helpful. And a lot of it is preventative too. We've been a model city as to how we work with the Empowerment Network. I've participated in calls with them with other cities, Kansas City, for example, who is now pursuing the same model we have to really engage the community and get proactive on these issues. And I will say, in the last 2 years, this is almost unheard of. We've had 100% clearance rates in our homicides, and usually that's an indication of good community relationships and working with them to help solve crimes, and I think that has been what has occurred with that example. Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics, so I appreciate you asking that question. As I was discussing earlier, we've had great reinvestment in our urban core, over $1.5 billion worth of development happening there right now. And that's important to the future of any city to have a strong downtown. But Omaha is blessed with historic business districts and historic neighborhoods, and that's where I really think we can be a differentiator, whether it's North 24th Street, South 24th Street, Old Elkhorn, Old Millard. In my district, those business districts are Dundee, Benson, Florence, and now Saddle Creek. And I've spent a lot of time on those areas as I've been in office, created a model I think that can be used anywhere in the city now, where we renovated Dundee, about a $3 million renovation there. We did about a $4 million renovation in Benson at a very critical time in its history, I think, when it wasn't going so well. But now it is, and is one of the best and coolest places in town. Same thing in Florence. That's one of our most historic business districts when you think about westward expansion and our history there as a city. And then just this week, we ground broke on a $5 million revitalization of the North Saddle Creek area. So the Homie and Sergeant Pepper's and Janice X Florist are some of the popular neighborhood staples there. But if you look at the area, Northwest Radial up to 50th Street and the Peanut, it needs some help, and it could go either direction. So we went about a very deliberate process of engaging a business improvement district there. I raised $2.5 million privately also to get this done, and then steered about $2.5 million worth of city money into this project that has started and will be completed by November. And it does the type of things you like to see in a community and that our young people want, which is to make it walkable and safe, and have small business amenities that is accessible to families, wider sidewalks on a bike lane, all new landscaping, all new decorative lighting, things that can really make a neighborhood special. Yeah, absolutely. I've been one of the primary proponents of the city's climate action and resiliency plan. I've been pushing for that for years, and I'm excited we did finally get that adopted end of last year. It is a substantive document with substantive goals. That is to reduce our carbon emissions as a city down to 0 by 2050 and by 50% by 2035. So it is ambitious, but it's really important now. We go about implementation, and when you talk to other cities who have done this, and by the way, almost every other city has already done this, the first year is really important to get on track. So I think we really need to put some energy into that this year, 2025. And a lot of it is very common sense in nature. Some things we already have done, like change our street lights and traffic lights to LED, reduce the amount of electricity you're using, save taxpayers money at the same time. Most recently, we had a number of contracts that came through the City Council that took all of our biosolid waste from our sewer operations and distributed it to area farmers for their needs, and therefore had a substantial reduction in our landfill fees. So we diverted all that from the landfill and saved $2 million a year. So these are all very common sense things we can be doing to be good stewards of our environment and reach that goal of 0 carbon emissions in the future. Yeah, I think there's always room for improvement in that category. The City Council's process, I think, is very transparent. Our agendas are all public. When we're all together as a group, it's always a public meeting. We have public hearings. I'm very deliberate as City Council President to provide a welcoming environment for anyone who wants to speak, proponent or opponent. I adopted also as City Council President a Zoom option for those folks that might not feel comfortable coming down or maybe can't because of their job or just the timing of everything, to make sure they have an opportunity to participate. And I think council members are very hands-on in their neighborhoods and in their districts, working with our neighborhood associations and constituents. We all have numerous meetings every evening and weekend. But I say there's always room for improvement because there always is. I think a lot of it too is driven by an administration and a mayor's office who is the entity who's producing budgets and capital improvement plans and things of that nature that by the time they get to us are pretty complete in nature. It's very difficult for a city council to alter those documents within 2 months that we have, but we are the ones that are conducting the public hearings on it for the public. So I always encourage folks to get involved much more early in the process. And I think the mayor's office and administration can really help drive that too. A good friend of mine who's also running for city council again now, Ben Gray, we spent a lot of time trying to engage our young people too in this process, who may not be so interested in coming to a meeting, and I think these days, attending neighborhood meetings and such aren't always everyone's interest, so we're always looking for ways to make that better. Yeah, I think mental health is a huge challenge for our community and lots of communities, and it impacts everything. If you talk to the police chief or a school superintendent or a provider or a parent or even the students themselves, we know mental health has a huge impact right now on virtually everything we're doing. So I think it does need to be a top priority too. The city has participated recently. I have had some budget amendments that allocated money to help behavioral health and mental health services to families. We have participated in the Children's Mental Health Center that'll open up in 2026. That'll be a big improvement, I think, for our community. Oftentimes when a kid is in crisis or a family is in crisis, you just don't know where to start or where to go. That's where it's going to be for the first time in a long time in our community. And there's an adult version of that too, at Community Alliance, that already is now operational. And then I mentioned the county resources too that are underway. So I do think people realize it. City, county government, state government, and philanthropy are coming together to make a difference on this issue. My day job is also in healthcare, and we happen to be the largest provider of behavioral health services in the state as well. So it's a topic very near and dear to my heart that I think is very important for everyone. A few things I'll be interested in this time. I mentioned I want to keep working on our property tax rate and reducing that rate as valuations go up. I think that's important for all governmental entities to do. That'll be an expectation of mine on this next budget. But then I talked about neighborhoods a lot. I'd like to see more emphasis and more appropriations to neighborhood streets, neighborhood parks, neighborhood business districts, as I was talking about, and that I'll continue to work on. I think park maintenance too. I think we could do a lot better job with our parks. We have a lot of parks for a city our size, but I think we can maintain them much better. And a great neighborhood park or even a great neighborhood play structure is super important to kids and families. And those are things I'd like to see have some more emphasis this next year. Yeah, I think we could have a big improvement in Omaha when it comes to public transportation. That's been a challenge for us for many years. I am encouraged that the former MAT, now Metro, is now a regional transit authority. So for the first time, those board members are an elected body. And so I think that will make them much more responsive to the needs of their constituents and the districts they represent. It also gives them more funding to pursue these opportunities. And they do have a new strategic plan that I think is good. Some of the most basic things that they should be doing are identified in there, which are increasing predictability and repetition of bus routes, things that people can count on, engaging technology, so you know when your bus is coming or how far away it is, even just bus shelters and bus benches. That infrastructure could be much improved in our city. And one thing that will start to roll out this year that is new is called microtransit, where they will incorporate private vans to take people that last mile that some bus routes just aren't making right now, to connect employees going to employers or wherever they need to go. There's a great example of that in my district. A lot of my folks take the bus routes to the North Omaha station, but it's really difficult for them to get the jobs in Florence, and particularly around 48th and McKinley, where there are a lot of major employers. This is the type of service that can really connect that last bit that we're missing right now. So I think we're making progress, but we could do a lot better. Yeah, that is a really important part of any city, arts and culture and music in particular for me. And we've been supportive of some really great venues we've never had before. You know, from anything from the Slowdown to the Steelhouse to the Admiral, and now these great venues we have in our neighborhoods too, Benson in particular. I've been very supportive of them, both financially from the city and in terms of their operations and getting them going and helping to promote them. The Benson Theater is another great example where I know you've been involved. These are the kind of things that make a community special. And those are the kind of things I think young people demand in where they want to live and where they choose to live. So I think to the extent we can continue to advertise and create these opportunities and sustain them, are super important to the future of our city. Yeah, so diversity, equity, and inclusion is a positive thing. This is something we should be pursuing as a city. By all indications, Omaha will become a more diverse city in the next 5, 10, and certainly the next 20 years. So this is something we need to welcome and make sure city government is reflecting in our boards and commissions, for example. I think we have made some progress there, but right now it's not even being measured. And I think if it's not being measured, it's not truly being done. So I think we can stand to have some progress there and making that reflective of the city. Also super important to have our police and fire departments reflect our city. Recruitment of those positions, I think, should include consideration of our population and its makeup. We've done some good things around small business development, particularly in areas of poverty, North and South Omaha, and some contracting programs we have now at the city around those things, and together with the Chamber of Commerce. That needs to continue. And then I'm super proud that in 2012, we adopted non-discrimination ordinances in Omaha. I was one of those sponsors at the time. Unfortunately, we're still the only governmental subdivision in Nebraska that has adopted that as it applies to employment and in housing. But I think that's a really important step we took to show that Omaha is inclusive and is a welcoming community going forward. I'm proud of my strong and steady leadership as City Council President. It's been an honor to serve my district in the city. Since 2009, my first election, I think we've done a lot of things. I'm really proud of my accomplishments when it comes to reducing property tax, when it comes to public safety, when it comes to neighborhood development and our neighborhood business districts we talked about. But I really want to push now on these next 4 years on those things, but also affordable housing and climate action. Those are two complex issues that are going to take experience to really make a difference on. I think that's what I provide in this election. So I appreciate everyone's support in the past. I hope they continue to support me going forward, and I hope everyone votes on May 13th.